Meet Mustang, the Ford Mustang.
When the Ford Mustang debuted in April 1964, it set off a sensation that I don't think the automotive world was quite ready for. And along with the times, the brand had to evolve, and evolve it did.
1974, the Mustang II came out of the box like gangbusters. They found that 4 or 5 model years later, they couldn't even revive it with the King Cobra. They just weren't getting the sales that they wanted.
It wasn't grabbing everybody, so Ford had to do something. And when they did, they ushered in what they didn't know was they were ushering in a new muscle car era.
There's going to be a new breed of Mustang to pace the Indy 500 this year.
So they really tried to introduce something to apply to younger generations, and the Fox Body Mustang was created in 1979.
What we found out in 1979 is not only is the Mustang back for its third generation with what's referred to as the Fox Body, but it was back in a big way.
With the Meticulous Mustangs collection, I think what you see is the lowest mileage examples in what we believe to be the world. Some non-dealer prepped, the way they came off the car carrier. A lot of them as they sit in the showrooms, window stickers still on them. What I consider the best examples and a variety for Fox Body era.
I walk into the Meticulous Mustang collection and I see history. And Dave has done a magnificent job of preserving Ford history. It's more than just the cars. It's the way he selected, the type of cars that he selected, the fact that he has done everything humanly possible to preserve them, sometimes in such original condition that they haven't even been prepped by the dealer to be sold to the public.
When you would look at Fox Body Mustangs across the country, they all have their little telltale signs of age, and these cars, they don't have that. I mean, they're immaculate.
When the Fox Mustang debuted in 1979, all car guys knew that if they hadn't heard about this car, they saw it debut at the Indy 500. This particular version doesn't get much better than this. The 5-liter engine, modestly rated 140 horsepower, but it was the beginning. It was just the beginning to tell all of us that we had a car that could accommodate a reasonably powered V8, and more than likely, as we moved into the future, things would improve.
This car is really special. It's a 4-speed V8 car, which they made automatics. They also made turbos. So this car, kind of for a true collector, is the pinnacle of what you want.
The 1985 Fox Body Mustang is overlooked sometimes. What most people don't realize is that of the 3 V8s, the only one that you could get as a 4-barrel carbureted V8 was the 210 horsepower, top-of-the-line GT model. They've got one here.
1985 was the last year you could get sort of that classic setup. It was available only with that carburetor with a 5-speed manual transmission, making it very desirable for collectors today.
The 86 SVO represents the last year of SVO, Special Vehicle Operations. It was division Ford created because I think they just started to see a niche in these cars for higher performance. And that really continued to SVT and eventually Ford Performance as it is today.
The exterior of the car sold this car. You had a cool hood scoop that was not available on any other Mustang. You had both a wing and a spoiler. Now, a lot of people will look at the back of the car and say, well, that's kind of a weird double wing setup. Technically, the top one is a wing because the air can go both under and on top of the aerodynamic surface. The bottom one is a spoiler. The only Mustang with a wing-spoiler combination ever in the history of the car.
By 1988, the Ford Mustang GT had really established itself as a car that was affordable, a car that had great performance out of a fuel-injected 225 horsepower, 5-liter power plant. The way to have it for a performance fan would be with the 5-speed manual transmission. Car had a great look, and it's really sort of one of those years where you could just tell that they had a plan in place to bring the GT version to its pinnacle, and by 1988 they had it done.
So the 88 Mustang GT is a kind of a weird car. When I bought it, the gentleman who had owned it bought it, drove it to church a few times, and parked it in his basement. So we refer to it as the basement car. So that just represents kind of a super crisp example of that time.
Steve Saleen and Ford in the late 1980s were inseparable. And boy, did that pay off for Mustang fans.
Of all of the legends in Ford tuner history, and there are many, there's one guy that really stands out. Steve Saleen, famed, successful racer and tuner extraordinaire, recognized that as good as the Fox Body Mustang platform was, he could make improvements.
What he did with the cars was pretty incredible. These cars were already 225, 275 to 300 pounds of torque. You know, they would run, if you had the right driver, mid to low 14s on a 5-speed car. It was in a league of its own.
This example is what we consider one of the best in the world. It's never titled, perfect color scheme for that time with the red and the gray interior. With those 5-spoke wheels, now they're everywhere, but that was the beginning of an era. Their lace wheels were in at that time, an innovative next step in styling.
Mustang fans really liked their cars because they got a lot of performance out of the 302, the 5-liter engine. So when Ford blended their lightest platform, the LX, just a little base car, with their top-of-the-line engine, instant success.
One of the cars that are really unique is the 1990 LX. It's a notchback. So for the Ford enthusiasts, the notchback represented a lighter car that most people raced. It had a trunk, which was unique because most had hatchbacks.
The LX was actually a faster car than the GT. Now, a lot of people didn't know that, but the Ford guys in the know that wanted the fastest thing they could possibly get their hands on so that they would have the best base to work from and take it out and whip the Camaros on Saturday night at the local drag racing track. That's what they would buy. The 1992 SAAC is like the unheard of car. It's like the Mustang unicorn floating off in the distance. I had heard of this is the first one I ever saw.
It's still in delivery condition. They made less than 70 of the SAAC cars. It was supposed to be a program with Shelby America, but unfortunately Shelby was working for Dodge at the time. So that program was shut down and using the word Shelby. So it became the SAAC car, which is Shelby Club of America.
It's in a league of its own. The unique color scheme, the drivetrain. Again, if you knew how to drive it, you could run a quarter of a mile in high 12s, low 13 seconds. The rarity of the SAAC car is, A, you'll probably be hard-pressed to ever find another one like it.
Ford went out in a big way the final year of the Fox Body Mustang, 1993, and they once again came out with a very special version, the SVT Cobra. Bump power up a bit, styling also tweaked, only 3 colors available. They got 240 horsepower to the fuel-injected 5-liter. All were 5-speed manual transmissions. And once again, a lot like many of the high-performance Fords, these cars were heavily used, they were modified, and are almost impossible to find in as new, in the wrapper condition.
Those cars kind of just blended the styling, in a lot of people's opinion, with the GT and the LX, which some people liked a little of both, and they kind of melded it together. First time used 17-inch wheels on a production Fox body. Different performance. You drive a regular Fox body 5.0 from '93 and a Cobra, noticeable difference in power and the delivery of power. They only made 5,000 cars, so it's a limited production for 1 year. Super cool colors. They made a red, a teal, and a black. In this collection, we have a teal and a black that just represent a great, great example of those two cars.
When these cars come to Indy, I want to see Mustang enthusiasts right there on the front row on the red carpet look at these cars and have the same look I had on my face when I came in this building, which is kind of like, oh my gosh, this is too good to be true.
Well, a lot of times it takes years to see this many Fox bodies in this condition. Still look like they rolled off the assembly line. Window stickers are fixed in most of them still have delivery miles. It takes years to find those kind of cars in this condition.
This dozen are absolutely the best in the world of their specific types. There's no denying that. So what that means for collectors is very important. For true high-end investment grade level collectors, this is the opportunity to get the absolute finest Fox Body Mustangs in the world.
It's been more than a decade of searching and finding these pristine examples. And there has to be some part of you that is melancholy when these cars are going through the block, but I know it's the right time. I know that they're going to go to good homes, and yeah, there'll be a little emotion as they go through. I'll probably pat each one of them on the back as they go through the line and be ready to be sold at no reserve. And I know they're going, but I think these cars are ready for new owners. I've been a proud dad for a long time of these cars, and I'm sure the next people that own them will be proud owners and proud caretakers of the cars and go to great homes.